So in the introductory video, we talked about how generative AI can support across the life cycle of startup development, idea creation, idea validation, and scaling up your ideas. What I want to do in this video, and if you didn't watch that, I'd encourage you to go back and watch that video. Now you can click on this link to watch those videos. What I'd like you to do right now, though, is let's zone in on one of those around the ideation phase, and that is using generative AI as a brainstorming partner. And this is not a new idea. Aaron Levy, the co-founder of Box, who's a great follow on Twitter if you're interested in how people are using generative AI, talks about ChatGPT as your late night brainstorming partner. And I think that's a wonderful analogy. Again, the mental model we're using here is that of a co-founder, right? So if you want to have generative AI be your brainstorming buddy late at night or through the day or whatever, I think there's three things you need to think about. And for what it's worth, these are the three things you need to think about in all settings when you're trying to effectively utilize generative AI in knowledge work. Because remember, not only is generative AI going to be transformational for innovation, but it really is a blueprint for how knowledge workers are thinking about this. So any of these you want to think about: do I have the right prompt? Have I properly decomposed the tasks? And have I properly integrated external data and external systems? So in terms of proper prompting, the thing I want you to think about here is the Teller taxonomy. If you haven't read this paper on the Teller taxonomy, I will include a note in the description where you can click and go read the article. You do not need to be technical to understand this article, but they talk about these 6 different levels of maturity that prompts go through. And for something like brainstorming, you really do want to get to this 5th level of sophistication. And that means you need to have 4 different specific directives. And you can see in the template I've put on the screen here how you can think about applying each of the different 4 levels of detail to the directives to do brainstorming. So you're not just going to ChatGPT and saying, hey, come up with a good idea for me. You're actually going and you're thinking about how you can give it the right directive so it's focused on the right things. And then again, human in the loop. It's a co-founder here. So that's kind of this first level of proper prompting. But remember, when we think about how we're doing this, we don't want to just do proper prompting. We also want to think about proper decomposition and proper integration of external data. And so for this, I want to just take a moment and talk a little bit more about how you could do that. So thinking about proper decomposition, one example that came to mind as I was thinking about this is the TRIZ framework. If you're not familiar with the TRIZ framework, I'll again include a link in the show notes with a little bit more information about this. But TRIZ was this methodology developed by a patent examiner where he said, look, every innovation that I'm exploring in my patent office or that I'm reviewing in my patent office role, every single one of them applies one of 40 different lenses on how I think about innovation. And companies for decades have been using these lenses to do ideation. So famously, Samsung has 500 people trained in the TRIZ methodology doing this all day, every day. Now, when I used to teach this in a class at Carnegie Mellon, one of the challenges was students would kind of fatigue walking through the different lenses. This is a great use of generative AI, right? Because you can train a specific prompt to use a large language model on each of the 40 different principles. And then you can sift through and have the system have some evaluation criteria and then pick the best 5 of those to have a human in the loop reviewing based on some established criteria. Now, to do this, you actually need to have a little bit more complicated system set up than what you would think of when thinking about kind of a classic go to ChatGPT and type things in. So you'll probably want to use a tool like LangChain. And if you're not a Python programmer, then you can use some of these different no-code tools on top of LangChain to help you do this. So this tool I'm using today is a tool called FlowiseAI. I've set it up in my own private instance. And you can see here now, I can show how the different prompts are chained together to have it come up with a given idea. Right, and so now I'm taking each of those ideas, I'm sifting through them, and I'm highlighting the best from there. Similarly, you could also think about this in the context of how do you actually brainstorm the right example. And so in this case, I'll talk about a project I worked on with another company where they used large language models to extract new capabilities from journals and then took those new capabilities from new technical journals, mapped them to a voice of customer repository, and came up with a bunch of new ideas to be evaluated, right? So now we're talking about integrating external system data into this. Okay, so those are 3 different ways that you can brainstorm with generative AI. You can use tools like ChatGPT to help you brainstorm new ideas. But again, I don't want you to forget, it's not just about brainstorming, although hopefully this is cool and you can work on this for some of your startup ideas. But also, this gives you a chance to understand how integration, decomposition of tasks, and proper prompting really are the right framework when you're thinking about so many different knowledge work tasks today around generative AI. If you haven't already, I hope you'll consider subscribing, because I would love to have you keep up to date as I continue to put more videos out on this playlist talking about how you can use generative AI to really do startup processes so much faster and so much better, and deliver this new unlock for entrepreneurs today. Thanks so much, and I hope you'll see you again soon.